All right, guys, we're back here, lay here on a what is it, Wednesday, and our next guest is somebody that met on Podmatch. Again, I always promote that site, and they don't sponsor me or anything, but they've been very beneficial to the show because I don't know, I couldn't tell you, it's over 50 guests I've gotten off of there. Anyway, and I always say this when someone has something to promote that helps you, whether it's your mental health, physical health, whatever. I always give a disclaimer saying, like, it may not help everybody. And it's not even about what she's promoting. It's just in general. There are things that help some people that don't help others. Some things that change people's lives that don't have any effect on others. But she has her own method, and it's something that I've toyed with in my head, considering it. And again, it's helped her get through real trauma. And that's why I love to bring people on who have actually been through something and then they find solutions. And maybe out there, if you listen to it, maybe what she's bringing to the table can help you. Anyway, would you like to tell us your name and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name is Jamie Fleming, and born in Texas, but now live in Michigan. And we're getting some beautiful snow, which is awesome. So, happily married for 19 years, actually, as of last week, and got 2 teenage kids. And that's a journey in itself.
Right.
2 teenagers. I am a survivor of being sexually abused by 2 different uncles starting at the age of 3. So
yeah, I want to ask you something. I swear I'm not just trying to be personal just to be personal, because I was molested in school by a nurse.
oh my
and
gosh.
she touched. I mean, I think, and this isn't about gay or anything, but thank God she was a woman, because I think it would have been more. I think it would have affected me a lot more if it was a man. But essentially, they just took my clothes off and felt me up, and whatever else. I mean, you shouldn't be naked in the nurse's office.
Never.
At school.
Yeah. Gosh.
But I mean, so I'm not trying to get into your sex life, but you have kids and everything. I've tried to toy with it as an older adult, intimacy, and I always thought it never really affected me. Now I'm a man, so it affects me differently, but I also know that I think it also made me more sexual. And I'm and I was like, oh, maybe that's what, and again, I'm not really sure. I'm still trying to figure it out to this day, but how did it have an effect on you with getting close to somebody and just being intimate? Especially with a guy, because, you were abused by 2 men, unfortunately.
Yeah. And they were uncles.
And uncles like that. Yeah.
On my dad's side. Yeah.
They're supposed to love you.
Yeah. I had a lot of trust issues. Even into marriage, just because, also grew up, I was also 3 when my mom and dad divorced. And so when that happened and I would go and visit my dad, that's when the abuse would happen. Every time I'd go see my dad, my uncle would molest me. He only raped me the once when I was 3. And then every time I'd go for a couple, 3 or 4 years, it just kept happening until I finally got old enough and realized this is not right and told. And then it stopped happening, thankfully, from one of them. Sure. And then happened by a different one. Made me give him a blowjob, and I was 10 years old. So I feel like going through things like that, it definitely affected my marriage, sex life, not in a good way, because there were things that I didn't feel comfortable doing, just because I was abused with those same ways of things that he would like to try or whatever. And it was like a mental block there. So it was kind of like I would enjoy sex, but not fully,
right.
Until I got healed. Yeah. And we can get into the healing part later, but once I got healed, then I was like, man, now I really love sex. So before it was like, okay, it's okay. But there was always barriers there of oh, well, I can't do this or that, because that's how I was abused. And so I would just nope, can't do that. Sorry. I love you, but I can't do that.
Sure.
And because I just was a mental, like you said, a mental block where I couldn't. I wanted to, but I just could not, because I just couldn't. I wasn't healed yet. And so it just I couldn't do it. And it frustrated me, because I wanted to be free. you know, I loved my husband, and I wanted to enjoy sex life for all it could be. And
Sure.
I felt very, like blocked in, you know, some areas of the ways I was abused.
Yeah, no, I love and appreciate you for saying that, because it's for being so honest, because I know it's. I mean, I guess the older you get and the more you've dealt with and you've learned to love yourself, these conversations are
Mhm.
easier to have now. I know they are for me.
Yeah.
But it's conversations a lot of people don't get to hear, because
Mm.
especially as a woman, you get shamed for, and if you want to have a one night stand or something. But like, just in general, like, talking about abuse is so foreign, and a lot of times you get abused even more if you talk about it, or you get shunned away and say, oh, you're just being a whore or something. And so I think it's
Hmm.
especially for a lot of these young girls out here who, and men too, but especially young girls, they're so misled by the music industry and entertainment, where it's okay to be 11 and, shaking her ass on TikTok. I mean, there was
Yeah.
even a Netflix series where it was like young girls twerking, and it got a lot of backlash, and it was just all about young girls like in twerking competitions. And
That's crazy.
and that's like basically
Yeah.
abuse by their parents. I mean, that's abuse from just the world. Like, these little girls should not be shaking their ass for everybody, for nobody really, but especially not for the world.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and you see like some of the biggest music that, and again, everybody has a right to make whatever kind of music and art they want to make, but it's the stuff that gets pushed. We've had really popular songs, just songs about having a really wet vagina or giving head, and it's like, look, as a guy, yeah, sure, I don't mind watching a girl talk about sex and stuff, but like, you can't be putting this out to the world, to the kids, and polluting
No,
them,
not
because
for kids.
no.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it's like I said, you could put it on your album, but this shouldn't be pushed as a number one single. But
No,
but it's
I agree.
it's to pollute
Hmm.
the kids, and they get so messed up, and then they become an adult, and they just have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any kids, but I always think, like I said, about my younger self, or just young kids that I meet throughout my life, and it's just, man, you guys have it so much harder. When I was in school, I graduated high school in '08. We didn't have mass shootings. I mean, yeah, Columbine had happened, and Virginia Tech, I believe, had happened at that point. But that was like, oh my God, Virginia Tech, you remember Columbine? Now,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
what was the
Yep.
next one after Virginia Tech? I have no idea.
I don't remember. I graduated in '02. But I mean, it was, yeah, it's just crazy these days. It's just, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and now if you don't hear that there was some sort of really bad violent act, you go, well, this was a weird week. Instead of being like, thank God someone didn't get shot up at a mall or whatever.
Yeah.
These kids they actually have to have mass shooting drills at their school. Like,
Yeah. Yep. Our kids do. Yep.
and that's not including all the molestation, the bullying, the online bullying, the
Hmm.
cyberbullying. Like, that's not including so many different things. And then you throw in the music and entertainment and everything that pollutes their minds. It's just, man,
Yeah.
not to be totally dark and, dreary about the whole thing, but it is really sad. I mean, to how kids like, when the ones who make it out, it's like, they really made it out, because
Yeah.
they had to go through a lot. And I don't care if you went to the whitest school, the blackest school. I don't care where you went, what neighborhood you in. Obviously, there are some different things you throw into that environment, but you could go to I mean, again, the one in Florida, it was what was it, like a kindergarten school, or what it was, and
Hmm.
they shot a bunch of little kids. Like, no one
Yeah.
is safe. We had a woman, an elderly woman. Not to go down this road too much, but like, we had an elderly woman who was about 75. She ran over a guy's shoes with her shopping cart accidentally. He punched her as hard as he could, broke her jaw, made her concussed, and just ran and left. Knocked an old woman unconscious on a grocery
Wow.
store floor because she accidentally ran over his shoe.
Oh
It's
my
like,
gosh.
that's the kind of
Yeah.
people you're dealing with out here, and
Yeah.
it's scary for anybody. But I mean, it's like, the generations before me failed me. The generations, I mean, my generation's failing the generations to follow. We don't,
Yeah.
we're just not good to each other.
Hmm.
COVID
For
made it
sure.
worse too. But anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I just, I said, I'm sure just being a mom, like, I think every parent now at least considers homeschooling for life. Because, like, I don't want to see my kid get hurt. Because that's got to be, I don't have any kids, so I'm sure that's like a scary thing for you to just like let your kids go out into the world for the first time and you have no say or protection because they're in other people's hands.
Hmm. I mean, to an extent, yeah, but I've also just like, I can't, live my life in fear. I've lived my life in fear for 37 years. When that abuse happened, lived in my life in that fight or flight mode for 37 years. And so
Sure.
when I got healed, it was like, no more am I going to like fuck being fearful all the time. Like I've got one life, and like I've been through a lot of shit in my life at this point, and I'm like, I cannot continue to live my life in fear. I refuse to now at this point in my life. At 40, I'm like, nope, I'm not. I refuse to live in fear every day. And so, yeah, there's times where I'm like, man, I just, just believe the best over my kids, and just that's all I can do. And but I refuse to live my life in fear, though.
Yeah.
Be safe, but don't, be safe. Don't be dumb, but like, don't be living your life in fear, because that's not healthy either.
Right. So how long did the abuse go on for, as far as you go?
So he raped me when I was like 3 years old, in the woods. We went for a walk, and he pulled my panties down and raped me from behind. And I remember crying. And so I think like maybe that kind of like, he didn't want to see me cry. And so he didn't rape me anymore. But then every time I would see him, he was like molesting me. And I would say, like, I'm sitting on his lap and he's fingering me and stuff like that. And sometimes we'd be like the kitchen table and people are in the living room. It's like, the fuck, anybody could just walk in at any time. But unfortunately, I always wished that he would have gotten caught, but, before I had told, but it never did happen. But I think I was like maybe 7 or 8, and I got tired of going to see my dad. And every time I'd go see my dad, my uncle would molest me. And I think I just got tired of hearing, don't say anything, you're going to be in trouble. And so I remember just one night, in Oklahoma where, my dad lived and my uncles lived. All his whole family's from that side is from Oklahoma, my whole dad's side. And we were in Texas where I'm from. And yeah, so I remember telling like at, my dad's house, I was like, in front of like my uncle, and like, there was like several people there. And I remember like just saying out loud, like, Uncle Rick, he touched my frontie. It's kind of how I said it. Uncle Rick touched my frontie, because I didn't really know how to say like he raped me or any of that. So I don't think they really knew till high school that my uncle actually raped me. They just knew that he touched me, And so it never happened again. But my mom and my dad were both like, well, because I have 2 older brothers, and so all that happened was that they told my brothers, who were still kids themselves, just don't let Jamie alone with your uncles anymore. So they put the protection, instead of them being parents and dealing with the shit, they just put it on my brothers. Oh, don't let Jamie alone anymore with your uncles. And he still a couple of times got me alone. And then I have one memory of him getting me alone. We're walking down this dirt road, and the youngest brother of the 2 that's closer in age to me, he's like only 4 years older. He's running and chasing after, like running up to us. And he was mad, and I kept trying to figure out, why is he mad at me? I didn't do anything. Well, he was mad because I was left alone with Uncle Rick. He got me alone, and we're walking down the road and going to the candy store at the end of the dirt road is like this little store. And he was like, let's get some candy. And I had a feeling like, I don't know, I just kept thinking, I think nowadays, like, man, if he would have got me alone, would he have hurt me worse that time because I had told? I don't know.
Right.
I had no idea if he would have.
Was there, like, did you always know that what they were doing to you was wrong, or was there a part of you at one point was just like, okay, they love me, or they're doing it because they care about me?
I don't really, I mean, I don't think I I don't think I really understood because I was so young what was happening. Like I didn't really, and then I would, I dealt with as an adult, like, man, I remember there was times where it did feel good. And when he asked, does that feel good? Is that too hard or too soft? And I would say that it felt good. I had regret of like saying that, cause but I'm a human being. Like you touch parts like that, it's going to naturally, even if you don't understand it yet, because I was so young, like it still is stimulating all of that, and it does feel good. So I had to like work through that shit of like, no, like I'm not responsible for what he did, and I can't help it that if there were things that he did that felt good in the moment, that's not on me. So I had to like really like realize that hey, I'm a human being, and he stimulated areas of me, and even though I was too young to understand what was happening, like, so that was a part of it. I don't think I ever felt really that like it was wrong or that it was. I think I kind of figured it was probably wrong because he kept telling me don't say anything to anybody, or you're going to be in trouble. But what little kid wants to be in trouble? So it was kind of like, well, okay, well, but he was the only one that was doing stuff to me at that point. So like, that's why I think maybe there was a part that was like, okay, maybe it isn't right, but I don't want to be in trouble. So I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah. I think it's natural to take it out on yourself at first. And you kind of, you kind of wonder and just, I don't know, you get so into your own head. And, so what was the first step where you were just like, I want to, cause you went through a lot of PTSD and trauma, I'm assuming, right? From all this?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Constantly just in fear of being raped as an adult. Just going out in the dark by myself anywhere, I would never do that. Or if I did, I'm just like hyper vigilant. I was hyper vigilant all the time. And then having a husband who traveled for a living, like with two small kids, we had a German Shepherd that was protection trained, and that made me feel a little bit better at home. But during the day, I'd still want to go do stuff with the kids, and I would. But the whole time I'm stressed out, I'm on hyper vigilance. So like literally like from the age of 3 until I was 37, I dealt with just PTSD of just immediately locking the door and then get in the car, immediately just always looking around. If any dude's checking me out, I'm thinking he's thinking he wants to rape me. It was bad. Like it was really bad. I had headaches every day. And I would sleep every day for like an hour to 2 hours every day. I don't do any of that anymore. I don't have headaches anymore. Once I got healed with the psychedelics, like I have none of that anymore. But like it like I don't have any of that anymore, but I had headaches almost every day, 2 sinus surgeries, did all kinds of therapies the church had me do. I was raised very, very super, super religious. And I'm not in the church anymore. I still believe in God, but I don't go to church anymore. I haven't in about 3 or 4 years now. Because the church hurt me because I would do all the things they said to do, and they would say I'm demon possessed, and that's why I'm not healed. As if I don't have enough I'm dealing with. Like, oh, just let me just tag that bullshit on top of it. Like you're demon possessed, or there's something wrong with you, and that's why you can't get rid of your headaches. There's something wrong with you, and that's why you're not healed. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and I was so deep in that shit that I just went along with it. Well, fuck, maybe there is something wrong with me. Like, I don't know. Like, and so I did all the different things with the church. And then, like I said, I think I was about 10 when my uncle made me swallow. And like, again, everybody was down on the floor and I was in the hide of bed. My uncle's like, hey, come here. This is a different uncle. Hey, come here. And he's like, swallow this. And I was like, and I was too scared to not, because I had already been through all the other abuse with his brother. And so I did, and I never told anything until, like I said, till high school, when that all came out. But I didn't tell about him. But then I was like 12 years old, and my mom invited that uncle, both of those uncles, to my home with my grandmother, because my grandmother, like, couldn't drive, I guess. And so the only way that she would come to visit is, my mom says her excuse was, well, the only way grandma could come and visit is if Uncle Rick, which was the uncle that raped me and molested me, and then the other uncle, like, the only way they could come and visit is if they drove for her. And so I remember, like, I'm not kidding you, at least a year I slept in the bed with my mom or I slept in her floor because I didn't even feel safe in my own house.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, I mean, I guess I don't understand. Like, if your daughter's been through that shit, even if you don't know all of what she's been through, if you knew enough, like, why the fuck would you let those people who hurt your daughter in your home? Like, under no circumstance, because I have a daughter and a son, and my daughter's 13, and there's no way in fucking hell I would ever let, if a person hurt my kid, God forbid, there's no way in fucking hell I would let that person stay in my house, let alone even be around that person, you know? Like, no. So I have a lot of, you know, I've had to really forgive my mom, forgive my dad, which I don't talk to him anymore because he still hangs around the one uncle who made me swallow. Like, that, he still hangs around that uncle, and even though I've told him it hurts me that he hangs around him, he says that's unfortunate that you feel that way. So I'm like, well, then I can't be a part of your life. If you think that's okay to hang around somebody that's hurt me so deeply, I can't be around. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
At this point, he knows everything. We had deep conversations about it. And you know, he was like, well, I had to forgive. And I was like, you can forgive and not don't hang around somebody who hurt your kid. You know, he would rather not be alone for Thanksgiving than, you know, instead I'm going to hang around this person who hurt my kid. You know, like
Absolutely.
he's always been a very selfish, manipulative, and very selfish person. So when I got healed, I was like, you know what? I know what I deserve and what I don't deserve to put up with. And I don't deserve to be around somebody that thinks it's okay to hang around the people who hurt me deeply like that.
Right.
There's something wrong with them. And, you know, I started to take on that blame. And then I, you know, went through some more psychedelics a year ago and realized I still had, you know, some self-hate in there. And there's nothing wrong with me. It's something in them. Why I can't talk to my mom about my abuse to this day. It's not me. It's something is wrong with her that maybe she has guilt. Who knows? Yeah. But I can't talk to my mom about my abuse. I can't or I have a dad who hangs around the abusers. Before the other uncle who died, he was supposed to be arrested. Long story, but he was supposed to finally go away for all the shit he did to me and several other people. And he was going to finally go away in jail. Like 3 or 4 years ago that happened. He was supposed to go away. And the week he's supposed to go to jail, he was found dead. Oh, and I'm like, yeah, he took all he had to do was take one more blood pressure pill than he's supposed to, and he would have went to sleep. So I have no doubt in my mind that's what happened to him.
So when did you kind of start down the path of the healing journey?
Yeah. So, the backstory with that is I was in a car accident in 2020, right when COVID happened in March 2020. So we're coming up on about 5 years since the car accident. I was in a car accident with my daughter. She was sitting behind me, thankfully. And we were almost home. We were turning into our neighborhood to go home. And dude was going 60 miles an hour, ran the red light, and T-boned us. And I had a herniated disc in my low back and in my neck. A neck fusion I've had to do, stimulators. I may even have to get my neck fusion redone right now because I'm still having issues. But my daughter broke her arm. Yeah. My daughter broke her arm. She had concussion as well. And she's doing great, but I'm the one that's still been having a lot of issues. Physical therapy I did has made things a lot worse, or at this point, any kind of activity that I do makes it worse. And so I'm trying to figure that all out right now. But when that all happened, I was in so much pain, and I got hooked on hydrocodone. I was on hydrocodone for about 2.5 years. And I was like, man, like, I just don't know. Like, I was in so much pain all the time. And so I tried psychedelic mushrooms, and that was really healing. And so I feel like I wouldn't have been open to psychedelics if I had not went through the car accident, because I feel like that kind of opened me up to, and because I was like, man, I almost died, almost lost my life. My daughter could have died. It really opened my eyes to a lot of like, man, like I have one life to live, and I almost lost it, and I'm in so much pain that I tried the psychedelic mushrooms, and it was really, really healing for me. and my husband had done it. And so he kind of encouraged like, hey, well, maybe this might help you, and so I did that. Well, so he had a buddy of his, cause he was prior military. He's been through a lot of his own shit. Have been injured in Afghanistan by a suicide bomber. So if you ever want to have him on your show too, you can totally have him on your show as well. But he's been through a lot of shit too. And so he had hurt his buddy of his, who's a soldier as well, had just said, hey, I went through this program in Mexico, with psychedelic-assisted therapy. It's a program and you're monitored the whole time. And, they do a lot of, you have to have an EKG and lab work, all that before you even go. And then when you get there, they do it again. And so he, found out about it. And so he went. And he came back and his PTSD was basically gone. His headaches that he had every day from being blown up twice were gone. He was just a lot better, more calm person again. Mm-hmm. And then his mom went through it and I was like, okay. And she had been through a lot of abuse and crap in her life. And I was like, man, okay, I've got to do this. But the pain management doc, but I had to get to every 12 hours on the opiates. Otherwise they don't let you go through it if you're still still at like every 6 hours.
Right.
And so they're like, you have to get to every 12 before you can come through our program. I was like, fuck. Okay. So I had a great pain doctor who helped me and he said, I want to miss you. I will help you get there. And so he helped me get there. So I got to every 12 hours and then I was able to go. So it was about 3 years ago I went and it was called Ibogaine. So it's from an Iboga tree in Africa.
Okay.
And it's the bark from that tree and it's called Ibogaine. And then I also did 5-MeO DMT, which is you smoke it. It's from the frog. It's like
I've watched enough Joe Rogan. I've learned a little bit
from
about
he's great. So I did the Ibogaine, and the Ibogaine was for me the most healing part of the whole thing. It's about a 12-hour thing. Every hour they give you one pill, and you take the max. I think is 5, and I only had the 4. And then I started to see all kinds of cool stuff. But they were like, well, Jamie, just remember if there's anything that's uncomfortable to see, just open your eyes and it'll go away. And I was like, okay. And so I saw a lot of random shit too, like, cause it's a very visual thing, very visual experience, very healing experience. I remember the first thing was that like my hearing got crystal clear and they had like an old timey kind of like heart monitor on me. And I could hear it riding, like you could hear it with my heartbeat, like it's writing it. It's really cool. I was like, why am I hearing that? I heard that the entire time. But it was like, yeah. And then, and I remember because like I said, there was people in there medically monitoring me the whole time. And I kept looking at this guy and I'm like, why do you have, and I told him, I was like, you have paint all over your face. And so he like walks closer to me, gets a little bit closer, then he gets right, and he still had it. He gets right near my face, right next to me. And I was like, okay, it's not there now, but I swear you just had paint all over your face. So that was kind of my clue, like, okay, it's kicking in because I'm seeing, things that really aren't there, but really were for me.
Yeah.
And he had it was blue and white tribal paint all over like the forehead, and everybody else that would walk in the room to assist me, or like if one would like, okay, I've been there 6 hours or however long, then the next person would come in. Every person that would come in or even walk by the room, they all had it. So that kind of told me like they're healers. So why would they not have the paint on their face? It was kind of like, that's kind of what it kind of told me, right. Very telepathically. And so I saw like random shit like,
sorry to cut you off. Did you have any like bad trips? Because I mean, I know people go through that where, something goes crazy, they feel too hot or whatever.
I wouldn't say that it was bad, but there was, I did see the abuse happen. Oh. But on Ibogaine though, it was like, so like I said, I saw all kinds of random shit. And then I saw like little girls running through forests, and I kept thinking, why do I keep seeing all these little girls? And then I'm running through a forest, and then this guy grabs me. And when he grabs me, I look and it's my uncle. Well, I wasn't ready to see it yet, so I opened my eyes. I'm like, nah, I'm not ready to see that yet. And then just random shit like hieroglyphics and a carpet shaped cookie cutter of a dog, but it's made of carpet and it's red.
Oh.
People walking in slow motion, and then all of a sudden they're running. It's just random shit. Like I saw my dog from like third grade. It was great. Random, like my uncle my grandpa that had died, and he's waving at me. And every person I saw, they showed up in frames. So that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
But then I saw like a life-size pill bottle, and it poured out. And when it poured out, it's not a white here, which is weird to say, but it's true. There's not a white that compares to the white that I saw. It was so bright that I think if I wouldn't have been on Ibogaine, it would have probably blinded me. It was so bright and so white. And I saw like my favorite painting of Jesus, and it just it didn't look right at me. It kind of was like a side profile look of Jesus. It was my favorite painting, and it was in a beautiful blue, like gold frame. And then that went away, and I saw my papa waving at me again. And then in the most beautiful, like like it all encompassed God's love that I grew up hearing about. Like it was all encompassed in the voice. So you felt love and care and whatever. It was all in that voice. And all he said was, "Are you ready?" And then just a couple of seconds later, "Are you ready?" And I knew it was like, okay, we're going to go back to deal with this shit. Are you ready to deal with it? The abuse and see it. And so I was like, finally, after a couple minutes, maybe I was like, fine, let's just get it over with. And so this time it was like, it went back to, it was like 37, then 36. So it was kind of almost like a slideshow of like a picture of me every year until it got back to when I was 3, if that makes sense. And so, and it was kind of fast. So it went back like a picture of me, 37, 21, 20, 19, 18. Every year it went back until I was 3. And then it stopped at that. I'm running through the forest again, which is not, like I said, not how it happened. We were just walking in the forest. But in the vision, I was running, and then he grabs me, and then the rape happens. And it's almost like, have you ever seen The Matrix?
Yeah. The first one?
Okay.
Or all of them?
Yeah. Yeah, like the first one or any of them, really.
Okay. I've seen the first one. So.
If you ever... Okay. So do you remember how on the screen there was like one of him, of the main guy, of Neo, and then then it went to like 50 of them, and then thousands of him on the screen?
Like multiplied, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happened on Ibogaine. When the rape part happened, it started out where it was just a few of them in my vision, and then like literally my whole vision, there was like thousands of them. So it was kind of like it was overwhelming me with the rape part. Like it just was all over my vision was the rape. And when that happened, I started purging, and I puked. And it wasn't a lot, but it was very gross. Like I was literally felt like it tasted like poison. So it was almost like I was vomiting up all that poison from the abuse. And when that happened, it was like, wow, like I got it out. And I saw me also as a little girl, because I was raised in the church. I was not allowed to be angry. Anger was a sin. And so I remember seeing myself as a little girl, and I'm yelling and screaming. And here's the thing, you couldn't hear me, because growing up my whole life, I never felt like I was heard. Like I told what happened, then nothing happened,
Right.
And so I never felt heard. And so that little girl, like she kind of looked, when I think about it, she looked creepy, because her face was really red. She's screaming, and her fist is in the air like she's really fucking pissed, but you can't hear her yelling. And so that to me was like, okay, well, that makes sense, because and you know what? That little girl fucking was mad and was fucking pissed and angry. And she has every right to be.
Yeah.
The shit she's been through, she has a right to be angry about what happened to her.
Yeah, of course.
And so it just kind of showed me, like, you really were angry, and it really is okay that you were angry. So that was really healing. Part 2, just I saw that, like, oh my God, like, wow. And then I also saw, like, my grandfather on my dad's side was raping a guy, and then he was raping a guy, and it was like this line of rape, which I don't think that's ever happened in my family on that side. Not with that grandpa. His brother, I found out, had abused his daughter as well. So it's definitely been in the bloodline. And then my uncle that raped me molested every girl in the family but one, which was not her brother's. It was his sister's kid. And for some reason, like, I guess they said, well, her husband was crazy, and so I think he probably would have killed him. So I think that's maybe the only reason she didn't get messed with, unfortunately. I mean, I'm glad. Right. But I think the only reason she didn't get messed with was because he probably would have killed him. But so it had been in the bloodline. So I think that was kind of what it was showing me. It was like, this is in the bloodline. And then I kind of, like, telepathically, it was like, and you're cutting that head off. Like, it's no longer in the bloodline. It stops with you. Right. And so that's kind of what it told me. It was great. And I remember, like, it eventually it put me to sleep. And I woke up kind of disappointed, like, well, shit, I wanted to see more, you know?
Yeah, you don't I wanted to see more like cool stuff. Life.
Yeah. And so I was like, man, I was disappointed because I wanted to see more cool stuff, because it was literally like you would see something and then it would slide out of your vision and something else would reappear slowly and gradually in your vision, and then it would go away.
It's like so it was really projector, cool. Like something on the wall.
Yeah, is really how it was. And then I was on the program. I didn't go through this. I went through the same company, but my program I went through was getting off of like drugs and stuff like that. So I was with the guy who was getting off heroin. The one my husband went through was only like 3 or 4 days. Mine was like a week and a half, because I did Ibogaine and then like 2 or 3 days of fluids and IV of fluids. And, you know, the next day I had only one withdrawal of the Ibogaine, of the hydrocodone. I woke up the next day and I had a little bit of withdrawal. And so they gave me one more pill. And on that, you know, I heard, like, telepathically, you are healed in every way. And it was a beautiful hot pink hibiscus flower. And so now I have that tattoo on my arm, you are healed. And it's a really beautiful hot pink hibiscus flower on my forearm, because it's a good reminder of, you know, that I am healed, and a good reminder of that. So, and then a few days later I did the 5-MeO, and that was really fucking scary. I was scared of that on that, like not on it really. It blinded me, so I couldn't see anything except like that same white, but patterns within the white. But it blinded me. So I felt very kind of alone, which I guess I was supposed to feel, but I didn't like that feeling of like, I thought I went somewhere else, and I didn't, you know, like when my mother-in-law did it, she said she knew that everybody in the room was still with her. With me, I was like, I felt alone, and I didn't like that. And I had to do a lot of self-talk in my head, like, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. And I have that on video. And so it's beautiful to watch sometimes. And then just when I let go, I like exploded into a beautiful diamond, and I found like true love for myself for the first time.
That's awesome.
And it just overwhelmed me with love.
That's great.
And yeah, it was a great experience. So healing. So now it's like, I don't deal with fear anymore, being hurt anymore. Like, I don't deal with headaches every day. You know, I still have the pain from, you know, my car accident, but I'm, like I said, working on getting that figured out. But, you know, but all the pain from the abuse, I mean, literally in 8 hours, I was healed from all of it. Like 8 hours.
All right. How instrumental was your husband with this sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, recovery, but this like healing journey?
How was what?
Like, how instrumental was he into helping you? Because, I mean, it had to help that you had a man in your life that actually truly loved you and appreciated you.
Yeah.
I'm sure he supported you in anything you were doing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He was like, I mean, I can send you the picture, but I have a before and after picture, before Ibogaine and then like the next morning. And you can see the difference in my eyes. Like they were dark. I mean, my eyes are blue, but like they were dark. And so it's crazy now. I look back at pictures of me from like 4 or 5 years or more ago, and it's like, oh, I don't like even seeing them, because I know the pain is there in those pictures. Even though I'm smiling, like the pain's there, you know? So it's like, oh, it's almost like painful to see old pictures of me like, oh my gosh, you poor thing, you're still not healed yet. But the difference in my eyes is what my husband notices the most, is that like you have life. He's like, you have life in your eyes, and you didn't have life in your eyes before. And I didn't even know you didn't, you know, he's like, I didn't even know like that it wasn't there, but now it's like you have life in your eyes, and I'm more confident mom and for my kids, and I just it's been great in every area of my life. And I remember I got home, and the first time we like made love, I remember crying afterwards, like, is that? And I told him, I get choked up still sometimes when I talk about it, because it's like, that for me was the first time.
Yeah.
Not the 16 years before that of marriage. Like, no, that was the first time for me ever. Like, cause I was able to actually fully enjoy it and not have any of that shit in my head about the abuse. It was beautiful.
Yeah, no, that sounds very beautiful. Now, for people who are like, because obviously this is foreign to a lot of people, psychedelics. Do you, obviously, do you have a website yourself, or is there a place that they can go to kind of learn more about it? Like a place that actually will have an open mind on, because there's a lot of people that will say this is crazy devil drugs or whatever the hell. But like for you, like where can someone go to kind of learn about these, like learn about it the right way and get the proper information?
I don't really know where you can go to find information, because if you look on Google, you're going to find all kinds of shit of like, oh, that's bad or whatever. I think the program I went through was called is ambio.life, so AMBIO.life.
Okay.
And so that program, like, I think that's their website, and they have a lot of stuff on there about the program and stuff. I think that would be one. They even have an Instagram as well, ambio.life. I think that's the same podcast they have as well.
Okay.
And they talk about people's journeys and stuff like that. But if they're wanting to connect with me, I would say I have a website which I need to update. I don't have all of my paintings on there yet, but I do I have most of them on my TikTok, but it's aftertraumaart.com. So when I got home from the program, I started painting, and had never painted before, but I've always been an artistic person. Like, I love to sing, I love art, and like, things like that. Like, but I like paint my number, and I've always been kind of artsy, that kind of thing. And so when I got home, I just started, like, all these words would come to me. And so I have word art. And so if you find me, like I said, on aftertraumaart.com, on there, you can see some of them I've done. I have, like, God, probably 30 more at this point that are on my website. But they're just, whether it's me, because I've been deconstructing from the church for, 3 years now as well. I still believe in God, but I just question a lot of things that I was raised to believe now that I no longer believe. And so some of them are about just my faith journey of, things like music healed, church didn't. That's one I've done. Just different ones that or it's been about the way I felt about myself, or family members of like, hey, like, you were just as guilty. So I have one that says you are just as guilty. So I have just different ones and so on my website there, I do have like a little bit of, hey, this is what this painting is about. And I do the same thing on my TikTok of like, hey, this is what this one is about.
Okay.
Maybe you can relate, maybe you can't, but my hope is that, these paintings can, whether somebody buys it or not, just getting it out there and like, hey, this is, maybe it helps somebody in some way of like, hey, I'm not alone with how I feel about this or that. And so they're just words that come to me, and I paint them, and it's very healing. So.
No, that's fantastic. I like I said, I know a lot of people, whether they know or don't know, we just met, and we've texted a few times, but I try to go into it with an open mind, just try to listen to people and learn from them. And, I really do commend you for being so honest, because, even like the verbiage that you use, like it even me, I'm pretty desensitized to words. I don't care. But it's just, it's hard, even like when, there's just certain trigger word, like when you hear the word rape, it always is going to get you to just like, your hair's going to stand up a little. But I appreciate that you're, I'm always appreciative of people who take their pain and turn it into something positive.
Thank you. That's what I try to do. Yeah.
No, you're doing a great job. Honestly, like I said, we just met, but I love that you're so honest and open, and And again, like I said before, like it's your journey. So people can say, well,
Yeah.
psychedelics don't work for me, but it's your journey. You didn't go
Mm-hmm.
what she went through, or even if you did, you didn't go through exactly what she went through. And so, like I said,
Yeah. Well, I'm a very big advocate for psychedelics because it healed me in 8 hours. Like literally, I had dealt with that shit for 35, 37 years of my life, and like just like a light switch, 8 hours later, I no longer dealt with it. Like it's just, and it's never came back too. Like I keep finding things too of like, oh, I mean, literally a year ago, I just realized that I don't have headaches anymore. Like it took me 2 years of not having the headaches to realize, oh, I haven't had headaches in like 2 years.
wow.
I'm still realizing things like, oh, I just don't deal with that anymore. I mean, yeah, I still don't like to watch movies that have the rape in it, but like if I do see it, it's not like immediately I start crying or I'm yelling, turn that shit off. I can't see that. It's not like that before. That was how it was. We immediately would like, if it has rape in it, I don't want to watch it. If it's got that shit in it, I can't, I'd see it. It would trigger me really bad. I'd have nightmares. It doesn't do any of that. It's more like, okay, I still don't really like seeing it, but it's not like, it doesn't trigger me like it used to, if that makes sense. Like, it's just like, okay, I don't really, that's not uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to see, but it doesn't trigger me like, oh, I'm going to have nightmares now, or I'm going to instantly get upset or mad or turn that, it's not like that. It's still like, well, I don't really care to see that crap.
Right.
I'll come back when that part's over, but like, I don't like, it doesn't trigger me to my core like it used to.
Yeah. So before we get out, you want to promote your website one more time so that people can check it out?
Oh yeah.
Please.
Yeah. So it's aftertraumaart.com. And like I said, most of my paintings are on my TikTok. There's a few I need to put on there, but most of them are on there. They're not all on my website.
Where can they find you on TikTok? Because I'm on there too. I'll have to follow you.
Same. Yeah. So same thing. It's After Trauma Art.
Okay.
All one word. So After Trauma Art, you should be able to find me on there. And then, yeah, same with my website, aftertraumaart.com.
That's awesome. Well, I really thank you for being you. Like, I mean, you can tell you're you're your own person. And, obviously it sucks that what you had to go through, but I think without that, who knows what you would have been today. I know I say that about with my disabilities and all the abuse that I endured. So I get it.
Yeah.
I don't regret any of it. I mean, obviously you don't wish that stuff on people, but you're just happy that you did go through it because it really made you who you are and you came on the other side. Because stuff like this breaks people. There's a lot of people that aren't here anymore because of this type of shit.
Oh yeah, I was suicidal in high school. I used to cut my wrist in high school, and then that summer I went to like a camp, and I was like, okay, I can't do that. Like I'm just gonna have to just deal with this shit forever. Whether I deal with and then I got healed, like I said, but. I was also suicidal in high school, so I get that part too of having those thoughts of just, okay, let's just let it end because I'm tired of dealing with it. Well, but that's not the answer.
I'm glad you're still here. And again, if you ever need someone,
you too, dude.
You ever need someone to talk to, I'm around. And I would like to interview your husband. That sounds like it would be fun.
Yeah.
So just
absolutely.
Put me in touch whenever you can, and I'll let you know when the episode comes out, and
Perfect.
Yeah. So again, thank you again. It was an honor.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. See ya.
All right. Bye.
All right, everybody. I'm getting out of here. I know I have two friends in my apartment, and they think that I can't hear them through the microphone, but the microphone picks up everything, including when they pulled up. So I figured I'd just tell you that if you heard whispering or doors opening or me saying, hey, I'm doing a podcast, you know why. And one of them was a former guest. So, yeah. And one's going to be a guest one day when he decides to put his children to sleep. Anywho, they're loved. But anyway, I just wanted to say, so if you heard any background noise, and that is Bullet's water fountain. None of us are urinating. So there is that. But anyway, I hope you guys got something from this episode. I probably should do a disclaimer because it is about, the hard realities of sexual abuse. I appreciate the honesty, but I know it can trigger people. It's not fun to hear the word rape and all the things that she had to endure. But she is so honest, and if you don't respect her for it, then I don't even know why you're listening. But anyway, I appreciate you guys. I will see you guys next week, and here comes the outro music, and we'll talk next week. All right, bye. See ya.